Hey guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie, and this is Micah.
Hi, I'm Micah.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
How did we meet?
I think through like mutual friends, Bella, probably.
Yeah.
I think we met at the rodeo. Was that the first
Yes, it was.
That's hilarious, actually.
Because I like met Bella. Somebody introduced me to Bella like once y'all got back from being abroad. Right? Where did you go abroad? You went somewhere different though.
Chile. Yeah, okay. I was in Chile.
And then, we definitely met at the rodeo. And then I saw you again at like book club.
Yes,
really cool.
And we like officially met. But so I feel like I had heard like your name, but I didn't like have a face to it until like. But yeah.
Sweet. How was abroad? Did you like it?
It was really good. It was really hard. But I did really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was like one of my majors is Spanish, so it's a Spanish program. But it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Chile's a really, really beautiful country. I got to do a lot of traveling, which was really awesome.
So
but
cool.
yeah, I feel very like lucky to have experienced it. So
did you go knowing people?
Yes. Not any of like close friends. I'm a lot closer with them now, but going into it, it was just a group of us that like sort of knew each other like mutually.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Okay, where are you from?
I'm from Greenwood, South Carolina, which is about an hour and a half south of here. Yeah. It's a really small town, so not far.
My grandparents have a lake house on there.
Oh, fun! Yeah. Oh my goch, that's awesome.
So close. Like, and I never know anybody who knows there.
Oh, really? I know. Me too. Me too. No one knows of Greenwood. That's fun.
So then, how'd you choose Furman?
So my mom went to Furman,
okay,
so I was familiar with it growing up, but I didn't really think I wanted to go here.
Okay.
Kind of was thinking more like South Carolina, like a bigger school.
Yeah.
And then I toured Furman my senior year and just really, really liked it. And just felt like I was supposed to be here. So kind of a leap of faith, but but I did really like it. I do really love it.
Right.
Obviously.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have 4 brothers, no sisters. So 2 older, 2 younger. So like a little sandwich.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. They're all really awesome. We're really close. So.
Did you like being the only girl?
I did, yeah. It was definitely hard. Like when I was younger, I really wanted like a sister. But now, like obviously growing up, we like fought and things. But now they're all so sweet and so mature. And now that we're all grown, or my youngest is a junior in school, so
older,
so we're all really close, and they're all so.
I like only have brothers too, and it's so fun.
Wait, how many do you have?
I just have 2 older brothers.
Oh,
but it's like so much fun.
I know,
and it's like I remember being like younger, being like, oh, like I want a sister, like play.
Right, exactly.
But like they did a good job playing with me too.
Yeah.
And, like they weren't really. We fought, but they weren't like mean. To me.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't getting bullied by them. We would like argue about random stuff. But then like, and so I never really wanted a sister. But then sometimes like, oh, I want a baby sister. But now I get older, I'm like, I love being a girl.
I know. I feel like I always say I think that I'm enough for one family. Like we don't need more of me.
Yeah, I have enough emotions and everything for all of us.
Seriously, literally. Anyway, so I agree. I really like having that.
That's sweet. Yeah. Okay, your testimony.
Okay, I have some notes.
So good.
Like I said, I grew up with a pretty big family. My parents are really, really strong believers. So I always grew up in a really Christian community, an awesome church.
Yeah.
And so like my parents just instilled like faith into me at a really young age, which I'm so grateful for. It's awesome. I was homeschooled in elementary and middle school, which is crazy. Definitely a very unique experience, but it was really good for me, I think, especially like education wise. And then I was a competitive gymnast for 10 years. So that was like my whole life was like school and gymnastics. And so from a young age, I definitely developed really like high achieving tendencies and definitely more of a like performance based self-worth. So I think that's pretty common with people at Furman.
Yeah.
So like technically I gave my life to Jesus when I was 7-ish, somewhere around that age. I think it like Vacation Bible School or something. But there's never been like a moment in my testimony, if that makes any sense. Like it's been a very like gradual growth. Obviously a lot of ups and downs. So it's not perfect, but I'll get into a little of that. So in high school, I started going to a small Christian school. So it was still very like Christian bubble. I ended up quitting gymnastics my sophomore year of high school because I started a bunch of other sports. But just throughout school or throughout high school, I continued to deal with a lot of like insecurity and doubt, just because my self-worth is placed in my performance, and obviously that fails. And so I started dating this boy between my sophomore and junior year. He was a great guy. We sort of grew up together. Our families were family friends. He had a really strong like Christian foundation as well. But our relationship was very like pretty lukewarm throughout. I think like neither of us were really like leading each other spiritually or I don't know. I think my faith was very much based off of like my reputation and like my surroundings and just being in that bubble at that point. So let's see. I was definitely always considered like a good Christian girl, obviously. And I so much found my like worth and all of that in my reputation and in my achievements. So I obviously knew the Lord. I obviously believed in him. But I think like heart knowledge wasn't so much there. The relationship wasn't so much there. So then I came to Furman. Part of why I chose Furman, I think, was kind of to step outside of that bubble. I really needed to get outside of it and honestly like challenge my faith, almost like test myself to see like, is this really my own faith or is this my parents' faith or you know what, like is this just because this is what I've been surrounded by my entire life. And so freshman year was obviously challenging as it is, but I was able to find a really sweet community of believers. All the girls that I'm best friends with now. I got involved with RUF really early on. I grew up in like the Presbyterian denomination, and that's what RUF is affiliated with. So I think second semester of freshman year, I joined their leadership team, and I've been doing that throughout college. And then I became friends with a lot of people involved with FCA, and so I was always like really involved with that. But towards the end of my freshman year, it was still kind of like I had a relationship with the Lord, but it was still very, I mean, the same things, like, very performance based. And I struggled like with a lot of doubt and stuff like that. So towards the end of my freshman year, I started feeling the Lord sort of calling me out of that relationship I was in. And I just basically ignored it for months, like maybe even years. I don't know. I think from the beginning, I kind of knew like this is, you know, not pleasing or not. It wasn't not pleasing the Lord, but in it not pleasing the world, it was you know what I'm saying. So anyway, so I was definitely feeling the Lord calling me in that direction. And then that summer, after freshman year, I started working at this camp called Ridge Haven, which I'd grown up going to. Honestly, I really just did that because my like mom wanted me to, and my brother wanted me to, and I really didn't want to. I was just kind of dreading it. But it ended up being a life-changing summer, and that's so cool. The Lord was so good. Definitely one of the most influential times in my walk with the Lord, really especially. Sweet. So I learned so much about just dependence on Jesus. I was a counselor, so I learned to trust him more, and to just trust in his perfect plan, not what I thought my plan was. And throughout that summer, I just knew he was calling me out of that relationship, and it was just so clear. It was so evident for several reasons. But literally the day I got home from camp, I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. It's really, really hard conversation. but I knew it was what I needed to do. And so I felt a lot of peace about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, and so then sophomore year half started. And after I had made that huge decision, I really thought, I was like, you know what, like, God, I made this huge sacrifice for you. Like, I have like done the thing, like I'm all in now. And so everything's gonna be great. Like my relationship with God is gonna be perfect. Like my friends are gonna be perfect. Sophomore year's gonna be amazing. Like I'm gonna meet my actual husband, blah, blah, blah. Shocker. That is not how it went. I came back to school and just was pursuing things that just things of the world. I was placing my identity in so many things that just weren't from Jesus. And so, gosh, it was, I mean, I enjoyed sophomore year, but especially in the beginning, I was just like pursuing the Lord, but also pursuing the world. And you just can't like do those at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I sort of gradually started to grow more. I started to realize, like, come on, Micah, wake up. Like, you know, this is not, like, you know, you're not pursuing him. And you know, this is not going to get you anywhere. Like, putting your faith in these things of the world are going to fail and they're going to all crumble. And so, I don't know, it's up, I mean, let's see. Well, I worked at camp again this past summer. And then I had more of like a leadership position in that. So it was really, really good. But it was a challenging summer. Just because a lot of responsibility and stuff. It was really good. And then I went abroad, obviously. And it was really, really good. It was hard. I am not going to lie and say it was perfect. I definitely fell into a lot of sin, just being surrounded by non-believers a lot. And so I would just say a lot throughout my story has been, I've always struggled to like, I don't know, I definitely sort of mold to the people around me. And so sometimes that's really good if I'm surrounding myself with believers, but if I'm put in a position where I'm not, it's really hard for me. So obviously still growing in that. I mean, here we are now. I am obviously working to pursue the Lord every day, but it hasn't been a straight road. It's been very up and down. Definitely have made my fair share of mistakes, but here we are now. So, but I feel like my testimony is a little bit different than a lot of people's, where there's not like a single moment where I was like, all right, this is it. Or like not some single like rock bottom moment. There's been a lot of lows and there's been a lot of highs. So, but sweet. Thankfully the Lord has been far more faithful to me than I have to him. So, he continues to pursue me when I don't. But,
So. That's so sweet. I think just even like the beginning of the theme of like self-worth being found in performance-based things, and then almost being like affirmed in it, then everyone's like, oh yeah, you're the good Christian girl. So it's like, oh well, it's clearly working. I gotta keep at doing these things. And like sometimes it's being in sports or going to like a school like Furman where it is like, oh, your grades are what defines you, and this is what defines you, and who's gonna get the biggest job out of here. And I think that's like something that's so easy to fall into. But then like, so then I've been working on like, what does it look like to rest? In this season of like, or even like whatever season people are in right now, and not performing. And being like, my worth is in what Jesus did on the cross, not on what I'm trying so hard, striving so hard to do. But it's like a hard thing to figure out, like, how much am I supposed to rest, and then what's the balance of like resting and also like being obedient. And so I think that's something that like is something I'm always wrestling with. Being like, okay, I'm being obedient because I love the Lord, not because I'm trying to earn some favor. But it's just such an interesting conversation to have, because it's like,
and it's crazy because these are all good things. Like working hard in school is a really great thing. Doing a lot of sports is a really great thing. But when that becomes an idol, which it so easily does, that is where you are going to fall short. Because like you said, like our identity is not in the things that we do, because we will fail.
Right.
And
right.
we will fail people, and they
Yep.
will fail us. And we, obviously, I'm not going to have perfect grades all the time.
Right. Right.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that our worth is in who he says we are and
Right.
what he did
right.
for us
Right.
is just so hard to
Yes.
like, obviously you know it, but it's so hard to like get it in
Believe
there.
it. Yes. But then it's also something like I've been praying for. Being
Mhm.
like, okay, remind me that my worth is in you, and
Mhm.
remind me that my identity is placed in you. And then like that's so freeing
Mhm.
because like you're held captive when you're trying to earn and perform
Yeah.
for your self-worth or for your identity or whatever it is. Like that's exhausting.
Mhm.
And you're not free because you're
Mhm.
like held in a bubble
Yeah.
trying to do
Mhm.
something, and just like how freeing it is to
Mhm.
be like,
Mhm.
it is not what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm gonna fall short,
Mhm.
but like God loves broken
Mhm.
people like
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
and He uses broken people like me, and
Mhm.
that's my hope.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really sweet, to like seeing your story just like kind of play out,
Mhm.
and then just that like I feel like I keep thinking about this, of like falling into sin, but then like what does it look like to come back to Jesus in that,
Mhm.
and knowing that He's calling us home,
Mhm.
and like the image of like the prodigal son like running back
Mhm.
to his dad being like, I'll be a servant, I'll like clean your floors.
Mhm.
But then Jesus was like, or the dad was like, no. And like what an example that is of
Mhm.
Jesus even more. And I think what the devil wants, like when we turn from Jesus for a season or for a day
Mhm.
or for an hour,
Mhm.
for a minute, like whatever that looks like, the devil wants us to just stay there
Mhm.
and being like, you can't come back again.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like you did this again, don't come
Mhm.
back.
Yeah.
And like that's not, the Lord is like waiting with His arms open
Mhm.
wide.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it breaks His heart
Mhm.
when we turn and turn and turn and turn. But then like when we come back to Him,
Mhm.
He just like opens us with
I know.
open arms. And I think that's just so sweet.
I know. I love that picture of him just waiting with his arms open.
Yeah.
Like I always think of that, and I always
Yeah.
think I'm like, when I'm obviously going through a season of running away from
Yeah.
him, like I just know I'm running, and he's like just
Yep.
following me
I know.
like that. And
Sorry.
as soon as I turn around, he's there.
Yeah.
I don't have to turn around and like climb my way back like up the hill.
Yeah.
Like that's
He's
not
just
how it
waiting.
works. He's right there
Yeah.
to just carry us with him. And so
That's so sweet.
it's just so cool to think about that. I love that you brought that up.
So you say like I think a lot of us struggle with that, like molding to who we're around.
Mhm.
Like sometimes like, oh, my neighbors all talk this way, and then at church I'll talk this way,
Mhm.
and then at school I'll talk this way, and with these people or with these friends, or and have you found anything that like helps you like stand firm, like knowing that's something you struggle with? Anything that's like going into a room or something you have to prepare before to like stand firm in what you believe, even when that's not what everyone around you believes?
Yes. That's definitely something I have a hard time with. I
Yeah.
think because a lot of my I struggle a lot with like people pleasing and
Right.
wanting to just like I don't know, just like everyone likes
Right.
me and
Right.
all the
Yeah.
things. So um yeah, I don't know. It's definitely been something that's hard. But
Right.
I think just knowing that those things are just so fickle, and so
Right.
I don't know. So I think when being surrounded by, people who maybe don't know the Lord, and I always struggle to like, should I just like talk about it? Like, how do you,
Yeah.
how do you be
Yeah.
that, light in that environment?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I just think that like loving is so important,
Yeah.
and just being, sorry, I don't even know what I'm saying right
No,
now.
I know I'm following you. And just even like stepping out in love
Mm-hmm.
is having us set apart.
Yeah.
Because like we love because He first loved us.
Right.
So even sometimes it's not always sharing the gospel with our words. Like sometimes it's being a friend.
No, exactly.
And listening well. And like sharing the gospel will come. And they will see that light. And it's not because of something we've done. And even like with what part of your story being like performing, like sometimes it's not in that. It's just in like who Jesus is and how it's like overflowing in our heart. And I think that like makes a lot of sense of like almost like reminding yourself, like what you're saying, like this is gonna go away.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like before like going into a setting being like, okay, I might be offered things that are fleeting. That's not what I want. And like having to remind ourselves of that promise that it's like this is gonna flee, but this is what stands firm forever. And that's who Jesus is. And then how can I be a light in this situation around non-believers? It's like loving them well. And it's like you can't, how are you going to share the gospel with somebody when you're not loving them well? Like why would they want to hear that? Like if you're a jerk to somebody and then you're just like, oh, also by the way, believe this. Like, I don't want to believe that. Not at all. I read something a couple weeks ago. It was in it's called God Soak Life. And it was talking about like the greatest commandment and then like the Great Commission. And like the Great Commission of being like, okay, go and tell and like make disciples of all nations. But then like this greatest commandment of like love God and love your neighbor. And it can't just be one of those things. Like if you're just going and telling, like, okay, cool, like good for you, like I'm glad you're bold. But then like if you're not also loving God and loving your neighbors well, then like it's gonna be real tricky to go and tell. And I thought that was just like an interesting like lineup and almost saying it's almost more important to love God and love your neighbor first. And also don't ask who your neighbor is. Like it's everybody. And I think I was just like so convicted by that of being like, okay, I might be eager to go and tell, but am I also eager to love my neighbor? And or maybe I'm eager to love my neighbor but not go and tell. And like how we need to be doing both as believers. But then like he'll lead us in that.
And I think you're so right to say that like it's nothing that we're doing. Like this is not our performance. Like the Lord will change whose heart he wants to. You know? And so that is something that he is doing in them. And there is nothing that we can do or not do to change that. Like we have no power in that. And so I think just as we are seeking and loving the Lord, exactly like what you're saying, and loving our neighbor and seeking to grow closer to the Lord as we're growing closer to other people, that in itself is the Lord will use that. And so, I mean, I just think in all that we do, seeking the Lord will get us to where we need to be. Like he's going to take us where we need to be. And so I think
that's sweet.
So right in everything that you're saying.
That's so good. And that just like our worth is not in him. It's not in all of these other things.
Exactly. And so no matter how many times we fail, like it doesn't matter because well, it does matter, but but like we are going.
But he's forgiving. Yeah. And we're gonna fall. And he just picks us right back up. That's so good. And it's not like abusing grace. It's like using this forgiveness. Obviously we're not trying to fall on our faces. But then it's like when we do. We just get up and he forgives us and he washes us with grace and sanctifies us and grows us closer to him. It's like, oh, whoa. Thanks, God. Sorry.
And it's an interesting line to like walk because obviously we don't, I mean, and that would just depend on your heart posture, like what relationship you have with the Lord. But, like knowing that no matter how many times I feel, he will be there to pick me back up. But also like, obviously we are seeking to be more like Jesus every day. And we are seeking sanctification. So, I don't know. It's just, it's so much to think about.
So. It is. That's good things to like ponder on too. Being like, what does that look like in my life? And how can I go about that? That's really sweet. Thanks for coming on.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for having me.
This was so good. I like love hearing your story. Like I like love getting to like see people around and be like, oh my goodness, they're so cute, they're so nice. And then they hear their stories like, oh, that's so cool. Like how the Lord is just like so kind and like putting believers here on a campus where it's like filled with non-believers, but then like how sweet it is to meet a believer and like to see how they love well and how they're set apart. And so it's really sweet.
And I think that's part of my story too, of like I really came to Furman to get out of the bubble. And obviously seeking Christian community, but not having no idea what the Lord had planned and that he had such an awesome community and bubble ready for me, like waiting. So he's just so faithful when we are so not.
But That's so good.
I really want to hear your story now. But I know.
Don't worry, I'll tell you.
Yay.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you guys for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.